Hello, I'm Roger. I'm sorry to distract you from your Thanksgiving dinner, but let's face it, Thanksgiving's just a warm-up holiday for Christmas, and cranberry sauce is garbage. Speaking of Christmas, I'm here to remind you to get a head start on all your trophy, tie, and toy buying by going out to our Black Friday sale. Black Friday is a day invented by us, the people who sell things, to lure you, the humans who buy them, away from your families on one of the only nationally recognized holiday weekends of the entire year by enticing you with marginal discounts on products that you can buy literally anytime you want on the internet. Probably for an even better discount. But we spend millions of dollars on advertising to convince you that Black Friday is the only day you can buy any of these gift items, as if we wouldn't immediately and wordlessly take your money on any other day of the year. We've made it our mission to convince you that all the smart shoppers do their holiday trophy collecting on Black Friday. We even turn it into a competition by arbitrarily limiting the time these great bargains will be available, which is enough to turn many of you into bloodthirsty Vikings.
You see this? Get lady! You see now this? Get your goddamn ass! You see this?
This is a crock pot, a product you never think about that spends 364 days a year collecting dust on retail shelves across America. And on Black Friday, you can have one for just $20, which for all you know could be a great deal. You don't know. You haven't priced crock pots recently because you don't want one. But there you go, buying it anyway. Only a fool would pass this up. And you're not a fool, are you?
Back up! Back up! Where's the police? Back up! Back up! Sylvia! Look!
Because there's nothing more important than rewarding your friends and family with prizes. That's why we've gradually started kicking off Black Friday earlier and earlier, to let you get the jump on all those other bargain hunters eager to go out and buy secret rewards for other people at 5 o'clock in the morning. Is 5 too late in the day for you? Worried all the good bargains will be gone by the time you get there? How about 4 a.m. or 3? Heck, we'll open our doors for you at midnight and make it seem like we're giving you an inside track to beat the crowd. And you want that, because our ad has been specifically designed to induce anxiety in you by convincing you that everyone else is shopping earlier, faster, and smarter than you. At any rate, regardless of when you show up, you'll still be one person in an impossibly massive crowd of the most stressed people you will ever encounter, while being bombarded by all the bright arrows and signs telling you about the deals that we assure you are insane! It's altogether an overwhelming and unpleasant experience for everyone. We are so dedicated in delivering to you the ultimate negligible discounts on frivolous items experience that some of our locations will even open their doors on Thanksgiving Day. Our little way of saying Thanksgiving. We'll happily force our minimum wage making teenage employees to work on one of the only 2 guaranteed retail holidays of the year to make sure you get the best possible price on that exercise bike you didn't even know existed 24 hours ago. At least until we have another sale at the end of the month, like we always do, to give everyone a chance to buy all the prizes they really wanted instead of whatever you got for them on Black Friday. So we'll see you bright and early Friday morning, or maybe Thanksgiving afternoon. Just put your turkey in some Tupperware and eat it on the way. It's all a question of how much you like being around your family versus how much you like buying things for them.
When I was a child, it was a simpler time. It was a time when our civilization was not on the verge of moral and economic bankruptcy and in danger of experiencing the last remnants of humanity, what's left of it anyway, being sucked out of the populace through social engineering schemes created by retailers, manufacturers, and marketing agencies whose corporate heads all share seats at the table with Beelzebub, plotting in secret to usher in a dark new day that will result in the torment of mankind, especially those who are adherents to contrary Christian values. The master manipulators can't afford for anything to impede their pathological psychosocial order that they have been covertly bringing to the surface through mass indoctrination of the people they seek to control, torture, and kill by way of quietly tricking them into complicity through mass participation in magic rituals with double meanings, of which the public is largely unaware. Their perception of it all being craftily managed through careful public relations schemes funded by massive budgets. The uninitiated may have an instinct that something is terribly wrong with a scenario or event, but may not be entirely conscious of what that problem happens to be. They can feel the evil in their bones. However, the lure of temptation found in the material realm, a desire not to really understand the ugly truth, and the orchestrated perception, management, and control of information has largely kept the understanding of such hidden truths to a minimum. Thus, the march of the wicked has carried on pretty much unabated, catastrophes accruing on biblical proportions. Evil derives much of its power through the unwitting consent and participation of the good people in the world who do nothing about it, feel powerless to stop it, or allow themselves to be drawn into it because it seems as if there's no way around it, that it's just the way society is, has been, and always will be, that it's too difficult. Therefore, in order to survive in the world, you've got to play by the rules made by the rule makers. Questioning things will only put you on the bad side of those who have the tremendous power to manipulate world populations and direct the social construct to their liking, and that will only endanger the questioning individual, so it is simpler to ignore the truth and survive at the mercy of those who have no mercy for mankind. The result of trying to preserve the questioning individual and mankind in this manner is the death of the questioning individual and mankind. I'd like to demonstrate the progression of this erroneous thinking process, where it leads, and how it allows for evil to manifest itself in the physical realm over time, with an example that I think many can appreciate today. Perhaps there have been times in the not-so-distant past when people have taken less forceful approaches to fighting this evil. Perhaps the need to survive outweighed the apparent danger of the problem, so people used more subtle methods to call out these evil men, because the disaster wasn't impending, and there appeared to be time to slowly sway minds and gently cajole people into thinking about what was transpiring. But I think those earlier approaches largely underestimated the power that was amassing, and may have been largely inept in stemming the tide. The progression continued, and now we find ourselves at this point in human history, on the precipice of unparalleled danger, Holocaust playing out before our eyes, yet hidden from view by the machine's propagandists. However, that wasn't always the case. Unlike today, where we find that much of the so-called entertainment that we view is steeped in double meaning and is largely meant to desensitize people to this evil of which I speak, and even elevate baser human qualities above decent values, to make that which is sinister seem cool. When I was a kid, instead of stealthy allusions to orchestrated events that are being carried out to help perpetuate a dark agenda, you'd find messages of morality, honest attempts to warn people about the dangers of iniquity, and there was no question that good would triumph over evil in the typical storybook ending. One such classic pieces, which pertains to the example that I'm going to relate, is A Charlie Brown Christmas. In A Charlie Brown Christmas, Charlie Brown is feeling depressed because of the secularization and over-commercialization of the Christmas holiday that was occurring at that time, so he went on a mission to push back against this disturbing trend by devoting his time and energy to make sure that the school's Christmas play was not all glitz and glamour, and instead exhibited the true meaning of Christmas. This theme was largely symbolized by the pathetic-looking tree that Charlie Brown had picked out over the shiny aluminum abomination that Lucy wanted him to procure for the play. Ironically, this symbolization, too, was off the mark, as Linus reminded Charlie what Christmas was really about when he recited the King James Version of the Gospel of Luke, chapter 2, verse 8 through 14.
Lights, please. And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. And the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not. For behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Saviour, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men.
Sadly, despite this Christmas classic being seen by so many people over the years, its message is still largely lost on the people of this nation, as the secularization and commercialization of Christmas warned about in this children's classic has progressed to the point where the traditional day that Americans have devoted to giving thanks for the people and blessings that they do have in their lives is instead used to gorge themselves with food, not to sustain themselves from the want of hunger, but so that they will have the energy to go to the local retailers and participate in a carnival of violence and mayhem that includes trampling people to death and fighting each other over shoddy merchandise that is largely manufactured by a nation that the traders who have sold this country out and who are working overtime to manifest this great evil have chosen as the seat of production while they finish reducing the United States to a third world hellhole. The only difference is the price we pay for our militarized gadgets, the level of sophistication of our electronic police state, and the vast grandeur of the mass surveillance society created by those who marketed these abominations to us in much the same way as the retail shopping frenzy trumpeted by the talking heads in the media as the best way to get bargain basement prices on a day that they have dubbed Black Friday. Now, in order to explain the term, you hear a lot of talk about Black Friday being invented in the 1960s by Philadelphia police as a derogatory way of describing the first official day of retail sales for the Christmas season because of the traffic jams and congestion it caused in Center City, or how it is the first day of the year that retailers turn a profit. You may have been told, in direct contradiction to your own experience and ability to remember the recent past, that Black Friday has always been a big event. But all of this is nothing more than revisionism in order to justify and explain away the recent manifestation of evil in our society that has taken on a form that even the most idiotic observer can see simply by flipping through the YouTube videos shot by people who are in the swarms of degenerates who would trample other people to save some of the same fiat currency that is being used as a weapon in the destruction of this nation at the moment. There probably is some truth to the term coming out of Philly. If there's anywhere in the United States that would make sense as a locus point for such an atrocious, animalistic, and evil practice that would eventually take hold in modern America, it is the city of Philadelphia, which is definitely home to sinister forces doing their part to shroud this nation of ours in darkness. However, the use of the term Black Friday is far more insidious than the chirping local newscasters or the huffing and Puffington Post would have you believe. Earlier today, as I was watching one of these videos filled with the despicable acts of unthinking buffoons, I stated that Black Friday is the Black Mass for Obama voting locusts. There's actually much truth in that statement. It is also the ultimate perp holiday. The phenomenon of perps in our culture has really taken the nation by storm with the selection of Barack Hussein Obama, who has moved Bush-era post-September 11th legislation to new heights and allowed it to progress in the direction of its only logical conclusion in terms of governmental tyranny and the repression of the rights of citizens who are not down with this rampant perp culture that we find ourselves living in. Perpdom is really just the byproduct of that let someone else do it, the evil forces in the world are too dangerous to fight, so why try? If you can't beat them, join them mentality that I mentioned earlier. The general public's complicity with this evil has also manifested itself in terms of this perp culture that we are living in. Interestingly, the rise of Black Friday also tracks remarkably well with the rise of perp culture. Both seem to have manifested themselves at about the same time, and both are given ulterior motives by the people who are supposed to document the world around them and report what is happening to you so that you can make informed decisions. Perp culture is largely ignored by the media, however, but we do see hints of it in terms of that see something, say something, snitch culture, and grab your balls TSA terrorist hysteria that's been sweeping the nation by storm these days. Any honest and objective observer has to admit it has become a dominant part of the so-called criminal justice system, as well as the overall mass surveillance culture we are living in, that is heavily dependent upon such dupes to acquire the human intelligence that figured so prominently in the 9/11 Commission report, a shit sandwich fed to the American people, which simply represents the supersized version of the earlier Warren Commission cover-up of the perp coup d'etat. This cultural destruction is thinly veiled and reported as innocuous, in much the same way as what may be their national holiday. Because we are also told that Black Friday is nothing more than the kickoff of the holiday buying season, the busiest day of shopping in America, one that will make or break this immoral economic system we are encouraged to ignore, yet unquestioningly participate in. If you were a perp, wouldn't luring people out with the promise of savings to a state and culturally approved sales event where you can snatch things from people and treat others as human piñatas while hiding in a mob of like-mindless animals be the ultimate yearly tradition? Isn't Black Friday an anathema to the spirit of Christmas? Isn't perpdom nothing more than the rejection of Christian edict in favor of the doctrine of do what thou wilt, and betray your nation, your state, your community, your neighbors, your friends, your family, and ultimately yourself? No, it's probably no accident that perp culture and Black Friday have arisen together. They are a natural consequence of one another. The two things are inextricably linked. Interestingly, the term Black Friday predates mid-1960s Philadelphia holiday chaos, terms developed by economic schools to determine whether a business is profitable, and even perp culture. But it is worth noting that Black Monday was used to describe Monday, October 19th, 1987, when stock markets around the world crashed, and it resulted in the single biggest one-day drop in the Dow Jones Industrial Average in history. And that Black Tuesday was used to describe October 29th, 1929, which marked the single most devastating stock market crash in American history. Does it not seem odd that a term so remarkably similar to those that mark such utter economic ruination and despair would be adopted by the marketing agencies as a device to help sell a massive shopping event to a public it wants to motivate to come out of their homes and purchase goods to make them more profitable? Does this term not seem like a rather ominous choice given these facts? Could it be used by the same people who are waging economic warfare against the United States by getting that same public, which they are cursing and obviously have little respect for given their marketing ploys, to participate in this ritualistic melee in the hopes of spawning even greater economic destruction than either of the two earlier black days that are associated with dark economic times for the United States? Is it not interesting that most of the money spent during recent holiday seasons go towards enriching what is arguably our single largest enemy on the world stage, while it pushes our people further into debt and increases the trade deficit that threatens to bury our nation? Isn't it interesting how this purchasing day is quickly becoming more prominent in the discourse than the very holiday that the shopping day was created to help celebrate? Isn't this, in and of itself, a symbolic representation of darkness overcoming light? Isn't that what the power players and corporate heads actually celebrate in their daily lives? Christians believe, and it is reasonable to assume, that black was the color of the universe before God created light. In the Bible, the light of faith in Christianity is often contrasted with the darkness of evil and ignorance. Many of today's Luciferians are enamored with Egyptian and Greek teachings and their mystery religions. For the ancient Egyptians, black was a very important color. In fact, it was the color of Anubis, the god of the underworld, who took the form of a black jackal. For the ancient Greeks, black was also the color of the underworld, which was separated from the world of the living by the river Acheron, whose water was black. Those who committed the worst sins were sent to Tartarus, the deepest and darkest level of the underworld. In the center was the place of Hades, the king of the underworld, where he was seated upon a black ebony throne. Black has also long been associated with death, evil, witches, and magic. It is no accident that the hypocrites of yesteryear, the royals, the clergy, and government officials in Europe began wearing this color to symbolize their power and where it was derived, much like how it is no accident that today the power elite are using this color as a symbol for their secrets, magic, power, violence, evil, and elegance. Furthermore, the really interesting fact about Black Friday is its association with the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. This is perhaps the strongest and most meaningful reason that this term has been conjured up in recent years and tied to an event that is antithetical to the peace on earth and goodwill toward men that the birth of Jesus promised. Good Friday is also known as Black Friday, because it was thought that Jesus was crucified on a Friday, and that the earth went dark on this day as God was severely angered by this killing. And I quote here, "And it was about the 6th hour, and there was a darkness over all the earth until the 9th hour." And that's from Luke chapter 23, verse 44, King James Version. However, the use of the term Black Friday here to refer to post-Thanksgiving holiday shopping kickoff is not in recognition of God's anger and in commemoration of an event that the people who have lifted the term find to be important because they follow the teachings of the divine being who was tortured, maimed, and killed on that day. No, it is in defiance of God, the rejection of the teachings of that divine being, and an attempt to overshadow the celebration of his birth with his murder that is the real point of using the term Black Friday today. It is meant to mark the triumph of the commercialization and secularization of the celebration and recognition of the birth of Christ. It is meant to signify that today's hypocrites and their hidden accomplices who hail the blackness that they are helping to reign in over the world have succeeded in enslaving the masses through consumerism, terrorism, and propaganda, and have been able to largely achieve the feat of getting the people to value that which is material over the godly and spiritual. It is their way to further weave their magic into the fabric of a society that they are working so desperately to control. They wish to extend the period of darkness that followed Christ's death indefinitely in this day and age, and rule over humanity in the darkness and confusion that they attempt to create. It is the equivalent of them spiking the football after scoring a touchdown. However, it is also the same as taking a premature victory lap, as the work they are doing is destined to ultimately fail. So let's analyze whether or not I was out of line in speaking erroneously when I stated that Black Friday is the Black Mass for Obama voting locusts. Black Mass is a ceremony celebrated by witches just prior to dates important to Christians that are meant to be a sacrilegious parody of their celebrations that are conducted in order to generate power through the dark forces that these people worship. It is marked by a profanation of the host or host desecration, which involves the malicious use of a consecrated host. Christmas is one of the most sacred holidays celebrated by Christians. Therefore, such an event and a mockery of their religious holiday immediately prior to that important date and tied to that very event is consistent with the idea of Black Friday being a Black Mass. Having people act in a mob-like fashion and treat each other in a way that is in direct contradiction to what the holiday is supposed to represent can be considered to be a sacrilegious parody of that celebration. Having such malicious conduct be centered about the gifts that are symbolic of a desire to spread peace and goodwill towards men is nothing short of profanation of hosts. When one looks at the videos, there is no question that the majority of those who engage in this conduct are the same kind of people who are representative of the state-dependent welfare recipients who would vote for a slick liar because he promises to keep the gravy train rolling despite the economic consequences for the nation, as a way of profaning a nation that was divinely inspired by the same teachings that Christmas is supposed to represent. Black Friday marks an attempt by perp culture to create an orgy of evil not unlike that which Carnival is meant to represent, except prior to the celebration of the birth of Christ as opposed to his resurrection. This time, instead of the church trying to incorporate pagan traditions to sway pagans into joining the fold, we see pagan worshippers trying to incorporate Christian traditions in order to push things in the opposite direction. If you want to do anything to prevent this perversion, then I would recommend not supporting the Luciferians who are responsible for this madness. Sit this Christmas out in terms of holiday shopping, and get back to the basics of Christmas by doing what you can to promote goodwill on Earth by reconnecting with family, friends, neighbors, and communities in an attempt to reverse this awful trend we have been witnessing in terms of the destruction of the human soul and this great nation of ours. Charles Schulz's message was not lost upon me, but I'm not sure he was forceful enough in his attempt to combat the growing evil. It's understandable, as this evil hides itself well, and was not as readily apparent during his time. The sole fact that it has also been referenced by the creators of South Park in a more modern criticism of these trends, and that I am referencing it here, speaks volumes about the power of its message and the success of this more nuanced method of warning people about the degeneration of our society. Hopefully, as the things he warned about become more problematic, more people will heed the warnings delivered by those who wish to avoid the catastrophes that men of wickedness and malice are in the process of engineering. Hopefully, Charlie Brown's cries will still be heard in this modern era and will not have been made in vain.
Linus is right. I won't let all this commercialism ruin my Christmas.